Dear conference participants, dear colleagues, I would like to thank you for the invitation to take part in this conference dedicated to the policies of cooperation with the diaspora. This is a topic that became particularly important for the Republic of Serbia after the breakup of the former Yugoslavia at the end of the previous millennium. Yesterday, the State Secretary spoke about the tragic 20th century for Hungarians, especially after the Treaty of Trianon. But in the case of Serbia, it's more at the end of this 20th century, because after this breakup, a large part of the Serbian people, it was during the 1990s, a large part of the Serbian people continue to live in what are today Serbia's neighboring countries. We are talking about the autochthonous population that belongs to the Serbian people. Today, depending on the country in which they live, autochthonous Serbs have different statuses, formally speaking. In some time, they are constituent people, a minority, or they have an undefined status. Serbs in this region of ex-Yugoslavia, there are almost 1.5 million. So it's a pretty high number. According to our law, autochthonous Serbs from the Balkans are not a diaspora. So this is very important for us. We call them Serbs in the region. These are persons belonging to the Serbian people who live in the Republic of Slovenia, in Croatia, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Montenegro, in North Macedonia, but also in Romania, Albania, and of course in Hungary. At the same time, the Serbian diaspora, that is the Serbian emigration across the globe, where Serbs are not an autochthonous people, and this is defined in the law on diaspora and Serbs in the region as follows. The term diaspora shall include citizens of the Republic of Serbia living abroad, regardless of national affiliation, and members of the Serbian people, emigrants from the territory of the Republic of Serbia and from the region and their descendants. Therefore, according to that definition, a citizen, I will give you a simple example, a citizen of the Republic of Serbia of Bunjevac nationality, so he is not a Serb, but he has Serbian citizenship, who lives in New York is considered a member of our diaspora. Likewise, a Serb from Banja Luka, so it's in the Republic of Srpska in Bosnia and Herzegovina, who lives in Paris, is also a member of our diaspora, regardless of whether he or she holds Serbian citizenship or not. It follows from the above that the diaspora includes Serbian citizens abroad, belonging to the diaspora in the formal and legal sense, and persons who consider themselves Serbs, so it's identity-based sense of belonging. While the first definition is simple because it is formal and based on law, the second definition, based on one's identity, is pretty more complex. What does it mean to be a Serb? I remember that the former French President Nicolas Sarkozy in 2007 asked and organized a big national debate about that, what does it mean to be a Frenchman? And they didn't find the answer. But in Serbia, while there are many, many exceptions that prove the rule, being a Serb, generally speaking, means feeling like a Serb, speaking Serbian and having the Serbian culture and faith in you. And about this last point, yesterday our colleagues from Israel spoke about compatriot or co-religionist. And for us it's important because Serbian Orthodox Church is an autocephal church. So that means that when you are a believer of this church, you belong to the Serbian Orthodox Church that is very special. And even if you don't know the language, for example, for members of second, third, or fourth generations of Serbs living abroad, if they have the feeling that they are believers of this church, they feel themselves as Serbs. So it's very important, and there are a lot of similarities between Serbian people and the Israelis' case. But for us, as an organ of the Republic of Serbia, it's not our job to do this. It's the church job. For us, the important thing is the culture and the language. So, the Serbian language and culture have been the focus of our activities at the indisputable connective tissue of the Serbian diaspora and the best way for us to protect their rights and interests abroad in accordance with constitutional powers. Therefore, in the work of the body I am at the helm of, it's the Office for Cooperation with Diaspora and Serbs in the region of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, special attention is paid to preserving the national, especially cultural and linguistic features of the Serbian people around the world. Our office provides support to the work of supplementary schools of Serbian language and culture in the world. All of these schools are open to children of Serbian descent and to others that want to learn Serbian language and learn something more about Serbian culture. The systemic care for the Serbian language and the Cyrillic script is primarily focused on young generations with the aim of developing awareness of their own national and cultural identity. In addition to learning the Serbian language, the primary education program abroad also includes the subjects as Serbia, my homeland, and also fundamentals of culture of the Serbian people. In that way, children get acquainted with the most valuable works of the rich Serbian cultural heritage, but are also encouraged to establish and foster lasting ties with the motherland. Only in the previous year, the Office for Cooperation with the Diaspora and Serbs in the region supported the opening of new schools in the Netherlands, in Malta, Russia, Austria, Spain, and Portugal. As part of these classes, some 1,000 children sat for the first time in classrooms where the Serbian language will be spoken. In the previous year, our office also supported 202 projects with a total amount of around 100,000 dinars, 100 million dinars, but unfortunately it's not euros, so in euros it's around 850,000 euros through a competition for co-financing. The funds are distributed in 5 areas, of which the largest amount for members of the diaspora was allocated for schools and cultural events. This year, we will traditionally support summer schools for young members of the diaspora in Serbia, so they can come and see how Serbia is doing now, and professional training for the teaching staff abroad. This year also, for the first time, our traditional media conference of the diaspora and Serbs in the region was dedicated to the role of the media in educating the youngest generations of the Serbian diaspora about the culture and language of their people. Other authorities of the Republic of Serbia also cooperate with the Serbian diaspora across the globe within their purview. For example, the Ministry of Culture and Information, among other things, co-finances projects in the field of cultural activities of Serbs abroad. The importance of fostering the culture of a nation and developing national identity is pointed out in the international documents and recommendations issued by UNESCO, the Council of Europe, and others. It is recommended to find a balance in developing universal, on one side, and national values by fostering values based on language, religion, tradition, and customs of one nation, and which are consistent with universal human values. Being aware of your own identity, knowing and loving your people is a prerequisite for loving and respecting other peoples and their cultures as well. And that is where the true universal values are reflected. Command of the Serbian language and awareness of one's own identity are not only a precondition for a person to be open to the world and other languages, but also a precondition for returning to the motherland. Would a married couple decide to return from Chicago, for example, with their 3 children, if the children did not know the language and therefore lacked the opportunity to continue their education in Serbia without impediments? Would persons belonging to the 2nd or 3rd generation of Serbs decide to come and live and work in Serbia if they were not aware of their identity and culture, and if they did not speak their mother tongue well enough? Of course, they wouldn't. Some research studies testify to the tendency of the influx of highly educated members of the Serbian people from the diaspora to Serbia, and we are very pleased about that. My colleague Ivan Brkljac spoke about it this morning. This tendency of return exists. In the previous 2 years, more people returned to Serbia than they left the country and headed abroad. Why is that the case? Well, the Serbia of 2022 is not the Serbia of 2000s, which was just emerging from wars, illegal bombings, and sanctions. It has strengthened economically, especially in the past few years. Of course, purely economic rationale still gives the West an advantage over Serbia, and you showed us a really good map about that. But to a much lesser extent than before. And while the economic situation in Serbia was improving, social stability in the West was deteriorating, especially in large metropolises, and was further exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is only logical that the interest of entire families in the return to Serbia increased and has been increasing to this day. And on the other hand, the living environment and social stability are increasingly important factors in deciding whether to live or to return. We are convinced that the tendency to return will continue because we believe that the strengthening of Serbia, both economically and socially, will continue as well. When they return, members of the diaspora contribute to the development of their home country with their knowledge, experiences, contacts, investments, but above all with love and respect. And that is why diaspora matters. Thank you for your attention.